What up, guys? It's your boy, Harry Wilmington, founder of IntrovertDatingSuccess.com. And today we're going to be answering a guy's question. He's having an issue whereby he's gotten back with an ex-girlfriend, all right? But while they were broken up, she connected with another guy, and this guy is feeling some kind of way about it, and he can't get over the fact that she connected with somebody else while they were broken up, even though he did the exact same thing. So let's go ahead and get into his message. If you ever have a message or a question for me, you can write to me at HarryWilmington@gmail.com. All right, let's get into his message. So he says, here it is in a nutshell. This one's kind of long, by the way, so stick with me. But he says, me and my girlfriend are currently back together after being broken up for 3 months. She moved to my hometown from her hometown, which is 4 hours away, left her job and her family to move in with me. So I want to pause and say this, okay? Doing those kind of moves early on, you are more susceptible to having relationship burnout, because with only in the span of a few months of dating or whatever, she's already trying to moving up in her life, which can be a big decision. And though you as the guy might be thinking, oh, this is great, it's something that she's really, really serious, this could also make her feel forced to feel things stronger than she's ready for. And even if you guys were getting along great, the whole aspect of moving in with somebody so early on, or sacrificing living in their town to be with you so early on in the process, is not ideal. For one, I don't like the idea of long distance relationships, but if you're going to do them, you should be talking to the person for a minute and seeing them regularly and having those conversations about what that would actually mean. And I'd honestly wait until there's some actual leaning towards a commitment of some kind, whether it's, you've been dating for a year and you really see stuff getting serious, or possible an engagement or stuff like that, before you consider these kind of moves. Ultimately, I believe that you should both be in the same town in order to be able to date each other. But I don't think that means that this person needed to necessarily move in with this guy, because that only makes things feel a lot more pressure, a lot more intense, and it can cause burnout really fast, as we'll see in this message. So, continuing on. He says, we did long distance for about 1.5 years. Okay. I would drive to see her on weekends, and she would drive here on weekends. Everything was amazing, and I'll touch on that in a minute. But once she moved down here, I started to show her less and less affection. So I'll deal with the first part first, which is, he says, everything was amazing. Yes, when they were towns away from each other and they were only seeing each other on the weekends. The real problem, honestly, with long distance relationships is that if you do see each other consistently, you're only going to be there for those moments where you're trying to make things happy and jovial, because you're realizing that your time with this other person is actually not as much because you're only seeing them sporadically. So when you do see them, you're only trying to make it the best of times. You're not trying to have any arguments. You're not having any major conflicts that are going to come up. You're not trying to have any of those hard conversations that people typically have, because you're in this fantasy world of, when I see this person, I only want to feel good things. And realistically, if you're dating somebody regularly that's in your own town, for example, there's going to come a point where you're going to be able to have those arguments, but then also talk through them and get over them and see the person at their day-to-day versus just when they're dressing up for you all the time and on their best behavior in the fantasy mode. And that goes for you too, guy, because you're also only going to be on your best behavior, not realizing that a woman needs to actually experience you when you're not at your best, so she can see how you handle stress, how you handle arguments and fights and stuff like that. And again, she's not going to be able to do that unless she lives in the same town as you. Now, obviously, as you're going to see, she moved in with this guy, but it goes from you're having these great fantasy times to now all of a sudden it's the pressure cooker of living together that can cause things to be more intense. And I think this is why the dating phase is so helpful, when you're dating each other, but you're not living with each other, because you have time to sort of test out any kind of, we'll say, arguments or fights that you guys may have, but then you can go back to your respective corners and then cool down a bit, analyze the fight or whatever you guys just had, really think about what parts that she was wrong on and what parts that you were wrong on, and then come to an understanding, and then come back together from your own separate places to whatever, and talk to each other and figure those things out. And as you figure those things out in the dating realm, you can start to get an idea of if you'd be comfortable with that kind of conflict resolution, or however the person is, on a day-to-day basis, to where you could think about living with them. But going from, hey, we're in separate towns, seeing each other every other weekend or so, to we now just completely live together, that can be a very hard transition. And I've seen it more than one time burn out as a result of that. Anyway, continuing on, he says, Everything was amazing, but once she moved down here, I started to show her less and less affection. She would tell me time after time again how she just wanted to feel loved by me, and I tried from time to time, but it always turned into the same thing. There were many nights we wouldn't even cuddle or sleep close to one another. So here's the thing, guy. This is when it's important to start learning a very important thing, which is the way in which you express and receive love is oftentimes going to be different from the way that your significant other gives out and receives love. So this is why I recommend you guys read The 5 Love Languages by, I think it's John Chapman. It's a great book, and it talks about the 5 various kinds of love languages. I've actually done a couple of shows now about the 5 Love Languages book. So but basically, like, there's touch, there's quality time, there's 3 other ones. Go look up the video, okay? I'm not gonna spend all day talking about it here, but the point is this. So what can happen is when she's saying that she's wanting to feel loved by you, and she doesn't feel like she's getting that. What that typically means is, obviously, if you guys are living together and you're dating her and you're caring for her, that you, on some level, do love her, and you're probably trying to show her love as you would best want to accept it. But if it's not the primary way that she likes to give or receive love, it could be for naught. So, for example, if she's a physical touch person and you're a gifts person and you're thinking giving her a bunch of gifts is going to make her feel loved, but that's not her love language, then she's not going to feel loved when she just might need a hug from you or a massage. But if you're not doing those things, she could very well be saying, I don't feel loved. You're sitting there thinking, but I'm giving her all these gifts. So how does she not know that I don't love her? And this is why you have to, people oftentimes project out, meaning, like I said, how you would like to be loved, you're going to project out to the other person and assume that that's their thing too. And it oftentimes is not. So if you're in a close relationship with somebody, a woman, family, kids, whatever, always take in mind that how they best receive love might not be the way you're typically used to giving it or getting it yourself. And once you know that, you can kind of start to ask the person, hey, so what things make you feel loved? And as you ask these kind of questions, she'll be able to open up. One, she'll be appreciative of the effort you're taking to even find out more about her, but also she'll be able to open up and tell you the kind of things that make her feel loved. And then when you do those things, then it's going to make her feel more loved. Continuing on, he says she had no friends when she moved here, and I basically live out in the middle of nowhere. So she would just wake up to go to work and come home. And yeah, so understand, God, this is another thing. This movement is moving from where she was comfortable and had a life to try to do things with you. So she's going to live with you, and now she's not feeling loved in the way that she would want to be loved. On top of, she has no support system, okay? And these are the kind of things that, this is why I recommend that you date people that are more in your town. But if you're living away from everybody in the first place, then it may be a thing where if you're trying to realistically get with somebody, you may have to move to a more metropolitan area, or at least a place where there's more people than where you're at now, because then you can have somebody that's going to already be in that same town and already have their own support system, friends, family, whatever, which makes it a lot easier to date, because the worst thing that can happen is this woman moved in with you and she knows nobody. So you are her sole person that she can talk to, hang out with, complain about her day with, have drinks with, etc., etc. And I believe that in all couples, both individuals should have their own support system. They should have their own set of friends, their own set of family that they can talk to and hang out with outside of just the person that they're with. Because as lovely as a person that you may be, Guy, the reality is she needs more than you to be able to sustain her livelihood. So for the relationship aspect of you being there, yeah, it's great, but there's going to be other relationship type needs outside of what you're bringing to the table that we all need, but that she definitely needs. She needs family to talk to. She needs other friends to hang out with. She needs people that she can bounce ideas off of besides just you. And when a woman does not have that, keep in mind, we're all social creatures, but women more so. Like, I know most guys, especially as introverts, we could be by ourselves all day, but typically men, as they get older, they can spend less and less time with people and just be fine. Most women, as they get older, are going to want more people to talk to. So the fact that she moved away from that, it's admirable, but that should have been your job to look at her situation, look at what she was moving into and say, is this going to be something that really works for her? Or if I like her that much, maybe I should move, or maybe this should just not be a thing and we should just find other people that live near us. That way I won't have to worry about these complaints she's going to give me later about not having any friends. But anyway, continuing on. So he says this lasted about a year until she had enough and decided to move out and get her own apartment. Bravo. I think that when you guys are dating, I don't believe in, honestly, and I know this is probably an old-fashioned view, and even though I'm in California where rent is very, very high and I have an understanding of why people do it, I still believe wholeheartedly that you should not be in any kind of real estate contract with anybody that you're not married to. Because, this woman gives up a thing. It could have been, she's able to find a place, thank God. But on the off chance that you guys break up and she hadn't found a place, you'd now be living with somebody who you weren't dating that's mad at you. But because their name's on the paper, they can still stay there. This goes into real estate things, car ownership. I really stress that you guys need to not do any of those kind of things. No cohabitation, especially before you get married. Again, that might be an old school way of thinking, but more often than not, those situations either typically fall apart in the marriage or they don't last, and then there's always legal tie-up afterwards. And I don't want you guys to have to deal with any of that stuff, all right? Continuing on. So I'm glad she got her own apartment. So she got her own apartment. We didn't speak for 2 weeks or so. And then I finally reached out to her and ended up going to check out her new place. So this is where you get to start to worry. She had enough and decided to move out. So at that point where she made the decision to move out, even though I don't think she should have moved in the first place, a woman saying she wants to move out is rarely a good sign in terms of her emotions and her feelings. But this is clearly based on the fact that she wasn't feeling cared for in the way that she needs to be cared for, loved, and she was feeling lonely on herself. And she moved out. So none of this stuff is indicating that she wants to continue on with the relationship. But it could also signal that just there's things that she's hoping you're going to see that you haven't seen yet. But the fact that you guys went a whole month without talking, no good. Because a woman that it has high interest in you and is wanting to be with you is not going to let it go really for more than 3 days before it's like, hey, I haven't heard from you. What the heck's going on? So the fact that you had to reach out to her, that's already a bad sign, guy. Continuing, he says, let's see, a month after I reached her, after he went over there, once that happened, we didn't speak for close to a month. In that time, she met a few friends and started going out a bit. So what this tells me is the fact that she was able to meet friends after she moved out indicates to me that they were spending a lot of time together to the point where she didn't feel comfortable being able to go out without him. And what that typically means is that the guy is usually constantly trying to have her attention. And some guys get threatened by the idea of the woman going out and meeting other people or doing things outside of just him and her. And so the fact that she went from not being able to get any friends to suddenly having friends means that he was not giving her enough alone time, which is ironic because, introverts, whatever. But he wasn't giving her enough alone time to be able to go explore those things. Guys, I'm telling you, you cannot hold a woman back and try to act like you're going to be her whole world and do things like say you can't go out and see other people. And I'm not saying that this guy did that. I'm saying based on the fact that she was able to find a few friends after they broke up and she found her own place indicates to me that more likely than not, that was probably what was happening. And that can a lot of times result because of guys being jealous and feeling insecure about, well, I don't want to go out there and possibly risk meeting another guy or whatever. And it's funny because the more you do that, the more chance you have of her actually going to do that thing. So that's why it's better for you guys to, even in a relationship, when you guys first start dating or even when you're in a relationship, I'd say no more than 2 to 3 times a week max you should be seeing this woman because she needs time, A, to miss you, but also to be able to have a life outside of you that she can then come back to you and talk to you about and possibly bring you into. But when you don't allow that time, it just can start to feel for the woman like it's just a lot of pressure and it's a lot of having to be there, and then she's feeling out of her element because she can't be a different version of herself besides just the one that she's around you all the time, and women need that time. It's not fair to hold them back. If that's what was happening, I don't know. I'm just giving indicators based on guys I've coached before and things that I've seen and experienced, okay? Continuing, he says, after the month was over, I reached out to her only to get no reply, started to really miss her at this point, so I did everything I could to try and get her to respond. And this is another mistake that you guys are making, is that, again, this goes back to the idea of projection. You're feeling things, you're thinking, I like her, I care for her so much, and even though she's not showing me the same signals back, she must like me because I'm so great and we're so good together, and so I'm gonna project out to her that I really, really like her and wanna see her, and then if she doesn't give that same response back, well, she still must wanna do it even though she's not showing me those signals, and that's not how this works. So the fact that he's pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, it just makes him look desperate and needy, and it's not allowing her to come to him. Because as I always tell you guys, if she's chasing you, she can't be replacing you. But if you do not allow her the open space to be able to choose you and then come after you, then it's going to make her want to push you away more and not respond to you, okay? But let's see what this guy continues to do. So he says he reached out, couldn't get a response. Finally, she did, but she didn't seem too interested anymore. I bought her a big bouquet of flowers and wrote her a long letter. I called her that day and told her I had a surprise for her, but she still wanted nothing to do with me. She said she wasn't ready to see me, so I left the flowers at her doorstep and left. So what is all this saying right here? What is this guy doing, okay? He's making this entire thing about him and his feelings. I know he's thinking, if I just show her these things, then she's gonna feel things back. But everything he's doing here is basically being that annoying little brother that like talks, I'm an older brother, so I know it's like the annoying little brother that wants to hang out with the older brother all the time, despite him being like, dude, I got my own thing, like go away. So it's like, it's great that he's feeling these things, but he's not looking at the fact that she is physically and verbally saying, I don't want to be with you. So what happens? She says she's not interested, so he buys flowers. She says that she doesn't want anything to do with him, and then he still leaves the flowers in the letter at the doorstep. Like, nothing here is saying, oh, you know what? I hear what you're saying. I recognize that you don't have those feelings for me anymore. So you know what? I'm going to be over here doing my own thing. Hey, if you change your mind, you know what? I'd love to hear from you, but other than that, have a great life. And that's the response that you should always have. Anytime a woman that's been dating you comes to you and says, hey, you know what? I'm not feeling this anymore. I'm not interested. The worst thing you can do is try to beg your way back in. And I actually have a book I wrote called 10 Ways to Win Back Your Ex. It's at the introvertdatingsuccess.com website. But the big thing I talk about is if at any time a girl breaks up with you, the only response you should have is, okay. Like you can say, okay, well, I mean, hey, if you change your mind, great, but thanks, appreciate it for telling me, and I'm out. I've had it where I've literally just text girls, okay, when they try to break up with me, only to find like 2 days later, they're like, hey, so I really wanted, and when I said that, I didn't mean blah, blah. But the reason that is because I don't overreact. I'm indifferent. My motto is, hey, we both got to do what's going to make us happy. So if you being with me is not going to make you happy, I don't want to hold that to you. I don't want to say I have to be the sole one that makes you happy. I might not be, so go do your thing. But when I do that, I'm giving them the freedom to choose somebody else or me. And in a lot of cases, I found that when I respond indifferent like that, the response typically comes back a few days later. You know what? Either I changed my mind, or that was a tactic I was trying to use to get you to talk about something, or hey, wait, I'm sorry I did that thing. I want to still be with you. You know what the responses I've gotten when I'm like, hey, no, why should we? No, we should still be together, blah, 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 blah. They push away a lot faster. They stop taking my phone calls. They don't want to come over and hang out anymore. They don't want to be my friend. They just go ghost. So of those two things, if you don't want a woman to go ghost, or you want to possibly get her back at some point in the future, your best response is to be indifferent, say have a great life, and walk away like you'll never see her again. Chances are you will, but only if you're not begging for that to happen. But I digress. Continuing. So he says, after the flowers and leaving the doorstep, he says, a family member of hers told me she wanted me to work on myself before I try to contact her. So for the next month, I did just that. And by the way, you should be working on yourself all the time. Even if you've been in a relationship 2, 3, 5 years and it's been successful and she loves you to death, you never stop working on you. Because like I said, your goal should not be the relationship. Your goal should be the things you're trying to go after to get your success. You chase after success, and women will chase after and then stay with you. But when you start focusing on everything that she wants and focusing on only her happiness and focusing on what's gonna be best for the relationship, then you typically fail. And that's not to say you don't focus on the relationship at all. You do want to make sure, like I said, you're listening to see, the kind of things that make your woman feel most loved and happy and whatever, but your primary focus in life should never be on a relationship. It should always be on your purpose, your goals, your dreams, the stuff that's going to bring you success, and then the women will come after. Because women want to see a guy that's passionate about other things than them. Women do not like guys that obsess over them. They like guys that obsess over their passion and then manage to find time to include them in. Okay? Continuing. He says, he says, I was going to different hotels and posting everything online, hoping she would get jealous, in which it backfired on me big time. Yeah, it did, because you don't give up the game, meaning you don't let a woman that's not dating you anymore know all your moves. So at the point where she said, I'm not interested, for one, you should have blocked her from all your social media, blocked her phone number, all this other stuff. But more importantly, if you were to keep her on social media, the best thing you could have done for that month is to not post up a single thing that she could possibly see, because that's going to get her mind wondering, what is he doing? He hasn't talked to me. He hasn't called me. And now he's not posting anything. I can't see if he's at home crying about me, or if he's possibly dating other women, or if he went just hanging out with his family. Like, I have no idea what's going on. And I so desperately want to know. And the only way she'll get to know is if she contacts you and says, hey, so-and-so, what's going on? We should meet up and talk. I'd love to catch up. But you risk that not happening if you're trying to brag on social media, like, hey, I'm doing another, because I know where you're doing it. Because we get taught this thing about, okay, women want to see that other women are into you and kitty cats compete and all this other stuff. And there's a level of that that's true, but for women that just dumped you, it's better for her to not know a single thing going on to get her wanting to get back in your good graces, versus you giving up the game and being like, oh, well, I see he's doing this now. And oh my God, I feel some kind of way. Because all this is showing to her, she's thinking subconsciously, he's posting this because he's trying to get a rise out of me, which means I still, on some level, affect his emotions. And you don't need women feeling that they have your emotions, that they're in control of your emotions at all, even the ones that aren't currently seeing you. Continuing. So, to his credit, he goes a few weeks, does not contact her, does not reach out, nothing, all right? So, fast forward a few weeks later, and she finally texts me out of the blue. So this is the perfect example of when you go away, when you leave women alone, and you just give them their space, after a while, they will reach out to you. Now, I found in my practices that, as guys, we tend to think it's going to happen within a week or two. No. Typically, if a woman breaks up with you, if she decides to reach out, it's going to be somewhere between like 2 to 4 months. On average, a woman will reach back out and give something of, hey, just wanted to see how you were doing and what's up with you and what's going on, and yada, yada, yada. So just know that time frame. It's going to take about 2 to 3 months before a woman that broke up with you will most likely reach out to you. During that time, you shouldn't be either posting up a lot on social media or allowing her to see your post, and you should be focusing on you, your goals, your dreams, etc., etc. Again, I talk about this extensively in my book, 10 Ways to Win Back Your Ex, so be sure to check that out at the website. Continuing on, he says, they ended up meeting up that night in a parking lot to catch up. The first few minutes of our conversation, she admitted to sleeping with someone else a few times 3 weeks prior. I also admitted to her that I slept with someone else twice 2 weeks prior. Now, this might be a little controversial, especially for you guys that you consider yourselves nice guys, good guys, and you want to be honest and forthcoming and truthful, okay? But here's the reality. During the time when you were broken up with a woman, if you or her decide to hook up with any other people, and you were using protection, and you were safe about it or whatever, honestly, there's really no reason for either of you to have to divulge whether or not you slept with other people during that time. Now, what I'm guessing is the fact that he says that she admitted to whatever, that typically means that he's probably the one that asked the question. I wasn't there. Maybe they were just having a talk and she says, oh, by the way, I slept with a dude. But most women, because they're trying to keep up a certain image about themselves in terms of whether or not they're a good girl or a loose girl or whatever, most women aren't going to just come out and say, oh, by the way, I slept with like X amount of people while we were broken up. So what most likely happened is he asked the question, so since we broke up, like, have you seen anybody else? Have you hooked up with anybody else? And by the way, that questioning already shows signs of insecurity, because again, if you guys are broken up, realistically, she wasn't getting it from you. So if she wanted some, she was going to hook up. It was just bound to happen. I don't ask those questions. I don't tend to care. I'm like, again, as long as you ain't got no diseases to come back to me, and as long as you ain't going to try to be mad at me for whatever I did, which I ain't going to tell you about, then we're good. We can start clean slate and start over again if we're going to go to the route of we're going to try to get back together, okay? But here's the thing. So he says, we got to talking more, and she admitted to drinking heavily while we were split up, and she was going out almost every night. She also told me that every time her and this person met up, it was after her going out drinking, and she was looking for someone to show her affection since she hasn't felt it in so long. Again, why does he know all that? Because he probably asked deep probing questions that he doesn't actually want to know the answer to. Understand this, man. This is just a truth for most of us, okay? Is that we might subconsciously or hypothetically know that woman that we were dating at one point and then broke up and we were in a breakup or whatever, that she most likely probably hooked up with other people. But our brains can handle that a lot better than getting actual confirmation. That's important. You have to know that because realistically, guy, what's going to change? If she slept with one guy or 10 guys where you guys are broken up, what does that change? You guys are still probably getting back together and you guys still have feelings for each other, but now you're going to complicate it because you're going to have emotions about, and while we were broken up, she wasn't thinking about me the whole time. Oh my God, she was sleeping with other people. Yeah, that probably happened and you got to get over it. Or if you don't want to know, don't ask because you already know whether it's 1 or 10 people, you probably can't handle the answer and it's not fair to then make her feel guilty for some stuff that she did while she was trying to possibly get over you or while she was trying to get her needs met when you guys weren't together. Like that's not fair to her. Continuing, he says, which is ironic, and he says, I'm not trying to be a hypocrite here, but he totally is. But anyway, I'm not trying to be a hypocrite here, but all I wanted was sex from the girl I met up with, and she tells me it wasn't the same for her. She just wanted to feel like someone wanted her. Well, yeah, that's because in terms of the sexual realm of things, men and women typically have different needs. Having sex as part of a relationship is great, but we can very well just have sex just to get our rocks off and be good without having to necessarily have a deep emotion for the other person. You know, that's the whole friends with benefits comes in. Hey, I'm in a dry spell. I'm not with somebody. I had a girl I was dating, but she's gone right now. And you know what? I need some. You need some. Let's do some stuff. It's a very logical thing for us guys to put this together and be like, but if this other girl comes back, I can just stop the sex over here because I have no feelings anyway. Well, for women, and not all women, but for a good majority of women, they need to feel some kind of connection with the person in order to want to then connect her body with them. So yeah, if she slept with this guy, she probably went out with him a few times, probably talked to him and at least knew him enough to feel like, hey, you know what? I feel like there's some kind of connections here to where I can now give my body to this person freely because I feel like there's on some level something that's, whether it's respect, whether it's being loved to care for in the way that she was dying for. The point is, yeah, it might be different. But this doesn't take away from the fact that at the end of the day, you guys both did a sexual act and now you guys are coming together. She reached out to you. So whatever connection she had with this other guy, clearly she felt that the connection with you was strong enough or stronger than this guy's to where she could reach out and try to talk to you again. Okay? So you can't discount that. It's okay for her to have felt something for another guy while you all were broken up. Now, if she tries to hook up with this guy or stay friends with him while you guys are dating again, then that's a different conversation. But for the actual physical sex part, the reasoning behind why you did it versus why she did it does not matter. All that matters is that it happened, and you know what? You guys are broken up, so it's fine. You're being a hypocrite. Stop it. Continuing, he says, this is coming from a girl that is not very sexual, lies, and has only dated a few guys. Also probably lies, because most women know that men can't really realistically handle the number. Like, I'll be honest, I'm a guy that teaches dating stuff. I know very well the amount of hookups that I've had, and I guesstimate the amount of hookups other women that I've dated has. But I don't ever try to confirm that stuff because I know even for myself, as 21st century as I am, if I'm hearing numbers like, oh, I had sex with blank tens or hundreds of people, that's going to probably get to my psyche. I'd rather be like, you know what, this person was probably popular back in the day. She looks very, very pretty. I'm going to assume some stuff went down. I ain't got to know numbers. And I can live with that versus getting actual statistical information. Just like for women that I'm dating, I don't give up my number. I don't think they need that in their head either. Like, again, are they safe? Do they have any STDs? Do they have similar sexual energy like you and practices and they want to do the same things and be experimental and all this other stuff? That's the stuff that's more important than the actual number. Now, I will say I'm going to do a show about how the amount of sexual partners that you or a woman have can actually play into whether or not you'll be successful in a relationship. But again, in terms of the hypocrisy of it all, if you did it and she did it, you can't be the one that's going to be holding back just because, oh, she's a woman and she should have known better. Like, that's not going to be a thing, okay? Continuing on. He says, she said she met this guy out one night and he showed her affection and that was the beginning of everything. She also said that it was only a few random times when she was out partying that they would hang out after. From what she said, it was to get over me since she could see I was never going to change. Okay, so again, the reasoning, none of your business, none of that matters. She probably had to tell you because you're probably asking all these questions and that's what you just did, that's fine. But again, whether the rationale, the point is, again, this still doesn't change. She's able to get sex during a break, just like you're able to get sex during a break. Stop being mad about it. Here we go. He says, we have been going to therapy since we have recently gotten back together, but I still question her a lot. And she says she doesn't want to think or be reminded of that time, but for some reason I can't let it go. Not sure why I'm having a hard time believing her, but at this point she can't take me asking her anymore. Well, the reason you can't let it go is because of your ego. Your ego wants to believe that during this break, she was devastated just like you were, and she was thinking about you all the time, and even when she was hanging out with friends, she shouldn't have been out there meeting other guys because she should have been thinking about you because you're so great. You're so great that no other guy should ever make her feel things, or she shouldn't want to do things with other guys because she should be thinking about how much she wants to be with you, even as she's separating and breaking up with you and saying that she doesn't want you around. So, again, you have to learn to not be so hypocritical. You have to learn to be more indifferent to when this kind of stuff happens. And quite honestly, guy, you have to get a more realistic viewpoint of women. Women get horny also. Whether or not she had deep feelings for this guy, or she just wanted a couple of flings with some guys in order to, get her sexual urges met, she had the right to do that because it's not cheating. You guys are broken up. Whether it was for a week, a month, a year, whatever amount of time you guys are broken up for, she can do whatever the heck she wants during that time, and you got to just deal with it. But if you know your ego is not going to be able to handle this, because on the off chance it doesn't work out, for future women that you may date and then break up with and get back with, you probably don't want to know the answer to some of the questions you're asking. You don't want to really know if she hooked up with other people. You don't really want to know if she enjoyed it, or if she was in love with other people during that time, or if how many other guys she possibly dated during the time. You don't want to know. Treat the period of time where you two are not dating as like a no-go zone. You don't ask about nothing that happened unless she got pregnant during the time or an STD or started dating some guy that's now a weird stalker. All that time was just time that she was trying to see what else was out there and realized, you know what? You were still the best option. And you know what? She came back to you and wants to be with you. So that means that whatever she was feeling with that other guy, whatever sexual experience she had with that other guy, it didn't compare to what you had. All she wanted to fix initially was the way that she felt loved by you. And those are things you can work on. But you're not going to be able to go back and be like, hey, I want you to unscrew these guys that you were dating during the time we were broken up. That's just not going to happen. So you can either get over it, or you can say, as much as I want to be with this girl, I know I can't handle it. I got to find somebody else. Because what you're not going to do is browbeat this woman for stuff that she did that wasn't a mistake and that wasn't a bad thing for her to do when you were broken up. I can't stress that enough. Broken up. So she has a right to not want to hear about this anymore, because on the off chance that you guys talked about it, and even if she said, hey, you know what? I hooked up with this other guy and it meant nothing, but you know what? I'm sorry. Whatever. You guys talked about it. It's done. You now bringing it up at all these therapy sessions and probably in private, and you're out there having a good time with her at a dinner, and all of a sudden you start bringing up, is this dinner as good as like the guy that you hooked up with and that you took? Like, if she's going to be reminded of this the whole time, she might as well just break up with you again, because clearly you're not getting over it. Like, this is not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. So get over yourself and get over the situation. Stop bringing it up. And if you can't, go somebody else. But don't torture her like this by bringing it up all the time. She did nothing wrong. He says, I used to question my love for her when she first moved here, but now I know I love her with everything I have. I could really just use some advice. So my advice is this. For one, I hope if you guys are in therapy, great. Hopefully you're starting to really figure out what her love language is, but find out what her love language is. Specifically figure out what it is that you weren't doing that was not making her feel as loved as she could feel loved. And then from there, drop talking about the situation with her and this other guy during your guys' breakup ever again. And if you can't, then get out of it, because it's not fair to her. And work on those things. Work on being okay with her hanging out with friends without you sometimes. Work in the whole idea of like, hey, we can have our time together, and then our time apart, we can do our own things and come back to each other and talk about it and have fun. Allow her to have days where she's off of work and she just wants to be by herself, to let her have that time without making her feel jealous or feeling like why don't you want me around? Like I said, 2 to 3 times a week is more than enough time to make a person feel loved, to really have those great moments with each other, to care for each other, and learn to grow while you're in your separate spaces. Now, ideally, you guys will get to a point where you can see you guys possibly living together again. And even when that happens, that should not happen, in my opinion, until there's a ring on the finger and you guys are getting married. Until then, you guys should remain in your separate places. Let her have her separate friends. If she invites you to hang out with them from time to time, that's great, but don't feel jealous for her trying to hang out with them. And at the very least, see if this other guy that she was hooking up with is still around. If he is, that's definitely cause for concern, and I would fight back against that. If the guy's still around, oh, well, we're just friends, we're not hooking up now. No. But you hooked up with him, so if he's still around, then we can just do a friends with benefits thing and not be in a relationship or whatever. But yeah, outside of that, stop asking questions. It's not fair, all right? So hopefully this answered your question, guy. I know this was a longer video, but he wrote a lot of stuff that I had to respond to. That said, I love doing these kind of shows. Like, I really want to just answer you guys' questions and help you guys out. So if you have a question you want answered on the show, write to me at HarryWilmington@gmail.com. You can also leave a comment down below if you're watching this on YouTube. In the meantime, guys, I'm on the goal to get 1,000 subscribers. Right now I'm at 480, and I want to get to 1,000 so I can start really doing some cool things on YouTube here. So all I ask for is a subscribe, a like, and share this with like 3 other people that you think could use it, and that helps me out immensely, all right? Thank you for watching this episode of the Introvert Dating Success Show. If you found the info in this episode to be helpful, please show your support by clicking on the tip jar tab, the link of which can be found at the website and in the description below. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment on this episode and catch new episodes right here on YouTube or wherever podcasts can be found. In the meantime, be sure to check out these other episodes so you too can learn to date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.